Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'll keep it short and straight to the point. So, when I was at Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, we had an MBA program. But the MBA program was a general MBA program. We had student, military, workers, fresh graduates, just the potpourri. I never had the kind of questions I had at Roseman. In that MBA program, we taught general MBA courses, and it was accepted. When I did my MBA, we had the general MBA classes, no questions. We enjoyed it. That's what we expected. But I went to Roseman University. Here you have all pharmacists in the class. The game changes. They're saying, relevance, relevance. How does this apply to pharmacy? Then we have a DMD class with prospective dentists. They're saying, not relevant enough, not relevant enough. Then we expanded to the hospitals, where we had St. Rose Dominican Hospital, we had Sunrise Hospital, all their employees in a classroom. How does this apply to the hospitals? Relevance, relevance and engagement. Well, we thought of several options. We changed our classes: healthcare management, healthcare economics, business ethics for healthcare professionals. We started going healthcare. The questions died down a little bit, but they persisted. Relevance. Relevance. What you're doing has nothing to do with managing a pharmacy, has nothing to do with running a dental clinic, has nothing to do. We started thinking, what are we going to do? Well, can we go get faculty members, adjuncts, who have a DMD degree, have an MBA? Well, we tried to bring in a consultant. Says, he can help us out. 2 days, 12,000, that is just for charity purposes. You get a dentist, says, a day, 1,000. That's just, I'm just being nice about it. We couldn't do that. So we decided that when we started looking to, well, maybe we tried trying to do guest speakers as a way to bring in those professional expertise that have a business background, have an MBA, have run multiple practices, or run a pharmacy that can help us to interject the relevance that is being asked for. I had an experience on our Utah campus that changed the game for me. We had an MBA, we had a dentist who has 3 practices around town. He has an MBA. He came to speak. He said, I just want to do this because it's going to be fun. I said, hey, come after work. Come at 6 o'clock. If you can just give me 2 hours, that's all I need. He came, started teaching. 7, 8, 9, 10 p.m. Students were like, stay as much as you want. They were licking it up because he was speaking their language, talking their language, putting the business, talking about number 34 teeth, how the equipment you have to buy, dollars and cents. He was cutting it up. They were just enthralled. When they finished, some of them hugged me, said, this is what we're asking for. Relevance. They were terribly engaged. We said we're going to change the game. Well, we can't go to the university, give us the money to hire a dental person. It's not going to work. Because like this guy himself is making $10 million a year in revenue. What am I going to offer him to come to teach for us? It's not going to happen. So that's when we started thinking about guest speakers. So we went to a point where we employed it robustly. In every class, we have a guest speaker. Where we bring in somebody who owns a pharmacy. We've brought in a former graduate who went and started a pharmacy. We've brought in dentists. We've brought in hospital administrators. We started to think of how we can insert them in the courses to emphasize the same topics we do, but be able to tie it to that specialty that we have in the classroom. And that's what we did. And we found it to be very, very successful, where we've gone to the point in every class. In fact, for the author students, we have a 2-week course. They don't get any credit, where we bring in guest speakers, about 3, 4 every day for 1 week, for about 2 weeks. They have them, no, 1 week. We have them just come in, experts. But all the speakers tell us, wonderful, because those people have the MBA background to understand the dollars and cents figure, but to understand that it applies to their field. And that is one thing we've done. And so I'll begin. That's just an introduction. I'll begin, and then David will take over from me. Literature talks about guest speakers can be another teaching tool, which we sometimes ignore. But we have employed it very robustly to become another teaching tool in our MBA courses. Well, because it appeals. For example, in terms of learning styles, I find that with dental students, once you start talking about teeth, all kinds of images starts going up in their mind, which doesn't happen to me. But for them, it stimulates learning at a whole different level that I can't ever get them to rise up to. So visual for them, sequential, active. So for them, when you bring such a professional that talks their language, talk about many deceits, malocclusion, I don't know what that means, and how to move teeth, and they start talking and connecting to business, you can see their whole eye just open up, they light up, because now you're speaking their language. So we found that to be also reported in literature. That's one thing too. Well, another thing we do with guest speakers, introduce variety into our classrooms. Real world perspective. This is real world, hitting the brick. Talking about actually what they're going to be doing and applying MBA topics right to the chair and offering the service. Fill the gaps. We don't have the faculty members that have a DMD degree as a background, or a pharmacy degree as a background. Very limited. Most of us are from academia. So it helps us to fill the gap, but also helps them to network. When the speakers come, they network. Sometimes we bring corporate dentistry to come and speak in the classroom, so it also provides them opportunity to network. It also provides them internship opportunities. I've had some corporate dentistry people come and speak in the classroom and say, hey, when you finish, check me out. We have a few spots. We're looking for somebody. Networking opportunity. Strengthening community ties. Sometimes we bring in speakers from pharmacies, from inside the community to come and speak. Strengthens the tie with the program. They tell us sometimes what they're looking for in graduates. They tell the students what they should be learning, because that's what they're going to need. But the students, they are also reinforcing the concepts in the program. Expand career vision. Okay? One time, we had a student who finished and went to start independent pharmacy in Pahrump, in Nevada. Very successful. He was very successful. A chain came by and told him, how much do you have to pay to leave town? So he told them the amount. They wrote a check and gave him, bye, he left town. So now he's turned into a career. He goes to a small place, he opens a shop, competes with a chain. They buy him out, he goes to another place. Okay? It works for him. Role models. They also serve as role models. When we bring these people, they serve as role models. Also, guest speakers, that's something we couldn't do as faculty, but we are able to do it by using guest speakers in a very robust, systematic fashion. What there are challenges you have to control for. Cultural factors. Will the guest speaker work? Will the guest speaker be able to speak the language and fit in with the culture of that classroom? Because we are talking about all pharmacists in the same class, pharmacy students, or all dental. Is it going to work? How about the guest speaker adapting their teaching style to match learning styles in the classroom? Time and resources. It takes time to find them. Sometimes we begin months, start to search. These people are very busy. They have their own practice, so it takes us months. We call them, we visit them, we send them email. It takes time to get those entrepreneurs to come that have that specific training and discipline. Matching speakers. When we opened in the hospital, St. Rose Dominican Hospital, we are very fortunate. We had a MOU that allowed us to set up the MBA classroom right in their facility. So in that classroom, we had nurses, we had dentists, some dentists, pharmacists, chaplain, the accounting person, all in that same hospital, taking MBA class. In this case, the relevance was them that the people coming to teach will make it relevant to hospital operations. So we had to scramble around to find hospital people who have been in hospital that have MBAs and business training to bring them in as guest speakers so that MBA would be relevant to that environment. And the more relevant it is, the more successful because it makes for effective recruitment. Because if you're not relevant, what's the point? Because these are people who are working, they're getting paid a lot. The only reason they want an MBA is to move up in the corporate ladder where they are. So it requires some sort of commitment. The other thing is, when we bring in guest speakers, we want him to speak at an appropriate level. We have to share the curriculum with the person to be sure that he understands what we're looking for. This is an accounting class. How are you going to relate what you're going to say to what is being taught in the class? Okay? So those are some of the challenges. It may not be aligned. The length of presentation may be too long. The person may be unprepared and unprofessional. So these are problems that could occur. So it takes a lot of time. Sometimes it might take us up to 6 months to try to groom somebody to the idea and telling them what our students want to hear and what they're interested in and what we are teaching and how are you going to adapt to what we are teaching in the classroom. But I said, when they are really ready, like that guy who came, the dental guy who came, they will sit down for 3 hours. When class is over, they will sit down and keep listening because it is just a hit for them. And that is what David, take over.
Okay, thank you.
By the way, David is in South Jordan, Utah.
Yes, hello from Utah. A little cooler up here than it is down there, I would imagine.
Yes, it is.
So I'm excited to talk about guest speakers. It's been a very successful process for us. It's not without its challenges, as Dr. O has mentioned, but if you find the right guest speakers, it can be a tremendous contribution to your course. So let's talk about sources. And it will vary depending upon the kind of guest speaker you need. So I will limit to the kind of guest speakers we need because we're obviously in healthcare and we need dentists and pharmacists and other healthcare providers and entrepreneurs as well.
Okay.
So, for example,
David, where are you?
Yeah, just you're moving me along.
Sure. No. Okay. No, I wasn't sure. Okay, no, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, great. So, for example, we look at local professionals and community leaders, entrepreneurs. We've got a radio station, for example, here that highlights successful businesses. We go to Utah Pharmacy and Utah Dental Association. We have a publication up here, the Utah Business, that talks about healthcare heroes. And they publish information about healthcare heroes. And so those are ideal for us as well. Successful alumni. You could have an academician both inside from your own university or from another university that might be appropriate. And then as far as examples are concerned, we'll bring in, for example, a pharmacist that owns 4 compounding pharmacies, or another pharmacist who is currently president and CEO of his own company that provides pharmacy benefits for pharmacies. There's a dentist that we bring in, and in fact, she and her husband both, which is interesting to bring in 2 people as guest speakers, and they've been very successful. The students love them. They own 2 dental offices, and he runs them and manages them because he's a businessman, and of course she does the dental work. And then for example, we bring in an alumni. We've got an alumni that we just brought her in a few months ago, and she did a fantastic job. In fact, the adjunct says he wants her for every one of his classes. He did that well and related that well to the students. The downside is you might get somebody that's really good, and they might say, you know, I appreciate this opportunity, but I'm going to have to charge you. And of course, we don't pay them. I brought in, for example, I saw a healthcare hero when I was an adjunct. I saw a healthcare hero in the business, Utah Business, and she was fantastic. She's an MD and also had a master's in internal medicine and trained at Harvard and Mayo Clinic, and was a very articulate speaker. And she started her own business providing healthcare inside the facilities of larger companies in Utah, and became very successful. And I was able to use her 3 times, and then the 4th time, she said, "I'm sorry, Dale, I'm pulled in so many different directions. I have to charge you $500 if you want me to come in." Said, "Thank you." So that didn't work, but she was great for a while. And so, as I say, there's downside if you get really, really strong guest speakers that they might feel like they need to charge as well. Okay, next slide. So there's various formats: in person, video, phone, and online. We like in person, of course. One of the adjuncts did a video once, and it was worked fairly well. But I've not done a video. I like in person. It's really the only way to go. That's our suggestion: is that you do in person. Next slide. Okay, formats. We like question and answer and some lecture. So, for example, we like a combination of a presentation where the guest speaker talks about themselves and their experience, and really develops credibility with the students, and then we develop a set of questions. We actually develop a bio on each of the guest speakers, and we hand it out to the students. The students then generate questions. We then take the questions, for example, as a professor, I look at those questions. I add my own questions if I feel like there needs to be some additional ones, and then I send those out to the guest speaker prior to their coming to our class, and so that gives them a chance to see what's important to those students. We also indicate to the guest speaker what our class is, the type of students we have. Are they first year, second year, third year, that kind of thing? What are their interests? If there's any cultural issues, we talk about that, so they're prepared. We also talk about the key concepts in that particular class. If it's, let's say it's strategic management, for example, we talk about the key concepts that the students are learning and how we want them to use that information as they talk about things during their hour with us. And then, of course, we hope that there's a little bit time at the end for the students to ask additional questions before they leave. And so best practice of faculty, really important for the faculty to be involved in this whole process to make it successful. So we have the students and faculty generate, of course, the speaker questions. They're sent to the speaker. We send the objectives out to them. We make sure that that speaker is a match for that particular class. Or obviously, dental, it's dental students, pharma students. But if we're talking about the entrepreneurship class, for example, we want a strong entrepreneur that's been very successful and wants to talk about how they develop their company and so on. And then we indicate to the speaker, you know, how much time they've got, what limitations we have. If they want special audio equipment, for example, we'll get that all set up for them. Then the really important thing is as a professor, you want to make sure that you facilitate that discussion. In other words, you're sitting there and making sure that those questions are answered properly, that they're not deviating and they're not getting off track, that you may want to ask a few questions yourself to get them back on track and to make sure that they're covering the concepts of the particular curriculum that you're teaching in that class and so on. In other words, you want to make sure that you really facilitate that whole process, and it really works well if the professor is very involved and stays with it from start finish. And then at the end, we send the professor sends a thank you note to the guest speaker. We give them a gift, not much, you know, a T-shirt, for example, or desk paperweight with Roseman MBA information on it and so on, just to get our name out, build our brand with them, so that they can help us. In terms of the support staff, very important to have somebody that stays on top of that. Make sure that they get all the information, that they keep getting back to them, because, you know, they get busy. For example, oh, well, I forgot I had to come be a guest speaker for your particular class. And so we stay on top of that, and we make sure that they understand what the process is, and we make sure that they know where the campus is, whether there's parking issues, any of those kinds of practical kinds of things. The support staff can be very, very helpful. Another really important thing for us, and I suspect it would be for most universities, is that you want to make sure you don't have the same speaker come in for the same students. For example, if you have an operations management class, and then you go to a strategic management class, and the same students and they get the same speaker, might be a great speaker, but you want to have a different speaker in every single class. So that's really important to stay on top of that. And then in terms of quality assurance, we want to make sure that we track the success of those speakers. For example, the next morning, I will talk to the students and say, you know, how did you like the speaker? Did they address the kinds of issues you were concerned about, and so on? And so we want to make sure that they like what they heard, and if there are things that they feel like they would like to see in the future, that we'll add those to the way we handle a speaker in the future. And of course, we give them an end of course evaluation, so we talk about their evaluation of the speakers, and then an end of program survey as well, where we talk about where they get a chance to talk about guest speakers in general.